Hi Steve, welcome to the Collectors Group video channel.
Thank you, Adam.
We've got an interesting release to discuss today with the Elvis Presley Sunset Boulevard.
Nice to have something new to talk about.
It is, and it started off slow this year, didn't it, with releases and everything?
Yeah.
But it seems to have ramped up quite a lot. It's nice that Elvis today has got its 50th anniversary release.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think with the upcoming news of the Baz Luhrmann epic Elvis Presley in concert film, it does match up with this release a little bit, because a lot of the footage we're going to see is from 1970 and 1972, which Hopefully, is where
I've noticed a lot of the advertising ignores 72.
Yeah, it's surprising, isn't it? I mean, we're guessing, and we're seeing little clips of 72 involved.
Well, the monologue, of course, is from 72, isn't it? So,
yeah, and if that's what he's basing his film on, tying in. But so we're going to concentrate on the 5 CD box set today.
Yep.
And then in the next episode, we're going to look at the 2 LP versions. You've got your standard black vinyl, and you've got your Graceland limited edition coloured vinyl coming. And we'll just discuss the quality of the material on the vinyl and how the vinyl sounds and looks, and we'll vinyl sounds and looks, and we'll do that one on your channel, Steve.
Yeah.
In the near future. So before we begin, because there's a lot on here, and it's like, where do you start when you look at this, listen to it, and read everything that's presented? We'll just do a quick unboxing of the set and just show everyone what's involved.
Call now for love and laughter.
yeah, it's a really nice looking set, presented really well. What did you think about the packaging and the presentation of it, Steve?
I've seen some criticism of the front cover, the picture. I actually really like it. It does have a slight effect as though something's been done to it, but it fits in with the other recent session sets. You know, they've used the same standard artwork, and I think it's quite an effective looking set from when you walk into the record shop and you see it on the shelf. It does draw your attention. So I like it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good looking set. I think the image has probably just been smoothed and you've got the blurry effect of the background. It's quite, yeah, it's quite nice looking. And it does match in with the on tour releases and Elvis in person releases we had. That leads us to just discuss disc 1 and disc 2.
Yeah.
So disc 1, you've got all the masters. So you've got the 1972 recordings for the album that never was. And you've got the 1975 recordings, which was the album Today. Yeah, and it's where do we start with this then? I mean, I'll kick off with this one, which is the Masters. Let's just say I've put it in the car. I've played it really, really loud.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, the quality of the mastering here takes it. No distortion. I feel sorry for everyone who's in the road, in the traffic works. I was belting out. But it sounds, for me, I've no complaints. It sounds really, really good.
I love it. I think it's the best most of those songs have ever sounded for me.
And we know it's a stripped down version. It's
not in all cases. You know, I took a close listen to Separate Ways, and I don't actually detect any change in the mix at all. Nothing. It sounds better. Elvis's voice is more forward. The instruments have got their own space. You know, they're very clear. But the overall mix, I can't see any difference.
I think the overdub sessions for the 72 recordings were quite organised, weren't they? They were quite. They didn't overdub. They didn't have sort of 5 or 6 different overdub sessions for it.
No.
Looking at my notes, they only did overdubs on April 27th and May the 8th. So on April 27th, they added guitars and percussion. And on May the 8th, they added strings and horns. But then, on some of the masters, they removed the strings they had overdubbed. So...
I wonder if that was Elvis's choice.
It could have been. It could have been Elvis. It could have been Felton. It could have been them together. But I think when you look at the overdubs, and I tell you one thing we should do as the gang is maybe do a video and do like a ranking on the Matt Ross-Spang releases, because it's very up and down. Yeah, you know. I can't remember how many releases we've got. 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Must be about 8 releases now. I think that'd be quite interesting to see where we all sort of score them out of 5 on. Yeah. This would be near the top of the pile for me.
Yeah.
What I find interesting about the overdubs is things things were added, maybe perfected for a commercial release. Everyone does that, or you know, except in the early days when everything was pretty much live. But it's a choice of what they use on them. It's like I always remember Always on My Mind being released in the 90s for the first time with the string overdubs, was it? See, but then you could sort of pick and choose from the overdubs what you wanted to add to the master. So you can actually release one of these songs in various versions still.
Yeah.
Whenever you wanted, by picking and choosing what's added to the master. And I think that there's something that's more interesting when we get to today's album on that one. I think, but I think the word I was looking for, the 1972 sessions were very efficient. You know, Elvis recorded them over 2 days, was it? 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th. But he would do a day into a morning, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
And in that time, recorded 7 really good tracks.
And what we've got, of course, is, you know, we've got Elvis with pretty much a regular band that is playing together on tour constantly. So they're getting used to playing with each other. They know how each other works. So, I mean, it should be an easier process to record under those conditions than having different session musicians constantly coming in and out.
Yeah. I think there was 2 tracks on the recording sessions that Elvis put overdubs on, didn't he? On Separate Ways and For the Good Times. So they're really in the original master, aren't they?
Yeah.
With class. And I think that's the interesting conversation, isn't it? What do we include as the master?
Yeah. I think there've been 2 people have been looking at it from 2 different directions, I think. As fans, and to me, the master is a group of people in a studio record something on the day. But is that the master? No. Surely the master is the finished product. You know, with overdubs, with agreed overdubs and things like this, with mistakes corrected, with whatever. The final master is the thing that's going to be turned into a piece of vinyl. I think a lot of people are thinking the master take is what was done in the studio on that day, and that's it. That's the master take. So there's 2 ways you can look at this, and that can lead to some confusion.
And I think that's where these sets do leave a little bit of confusion with this. And going back to the booklet, the booklet's good, and there is good information in there. The one thing it's missing for me is Matt. Now, I would have liked to have seen a couple, 2 or 3 pages from Matt Ross-Spang telling us what he had to work with, how he did it, what tools he used, what studio he recorded in. I would find that really interesting.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I'd
maybe
like a promotional video of him sat at a desk actually mixing, saying, look, I've got this and I can do this, and I've got this and I can do this.
Yeah. And what, you know, and what wouldn't it be great to get Matt on the channel?
Yeah.
and just have a chat about his work. You know, is he allowed to do that? You know, has he been told not to talk to people? But hearing from him you know, what he put into it, how what limitations he had. I don't want to see a promotional video of a big mix, a big reel to reel rule mixing desk, or you know, taking from the master tapes, if he's just being supplied 16 track recordings from Sony. If he's being supplied digital recordings to work with and not being able to go to the master reel,
yeah,
I don't want to see something that's confusing even more.
Yeah,
I want to know, you know, they must have given the 16 track audio to work with, otherwise it'd be really difficult working from stereo masters. You'd have to, and he must be presented with the overdubs as well, because if you're going to create a new mix, which is what this is about, disc 1 and 2 is about a new mix, a new presentation of these sessions and recordings. I'd like to see how that was made, and I think you've got to read the small print with this, because on the back it's like we're looking at this as minus overdubs. So the master's been taken of what Elvis and the band recorded in the studio.
That's what you would think.
That's what you could be led to believe.
But there are absolutely overdubs on some of those tracks.
And if you read the smaller print on the back cover, it's Elvis master recordings before the vocal and orchestral overdubs. So all the overdub sessions where you added extra backing singers, and all the sessions where you added violins and cellos and probably horns as well.
Yeah.
We're saying that this release covers up to that point. Now, prior to that point of backing singers and orchestra, you've got guitar overdubs, you've got percussion overdubs.
Yeah.
Of
that's where the confusions come in.
And I think that gives him also free reign to pluck a guitar overdub and add it to the master to create a new mix. Because how are you going to create a new mix of something
that's already been,
with it? You can't give him too many restrictions with it, can you? You've got to give him some free reign to say, actually, if we use that guitar, it's going to add something to it or make it sound different. You know, and that is the whole purpose of disc 1 and 2, isn't it? To give us something.
That has absolutely happened. You know, I was listening to For the Good Times, and I love the guitar work in that we're now getting to the fore. You know, this sort of meandering guitar throughout the entire thing, and I really like it.
Yeah, and because the overdubs were very efficient, and there was only 2 of them for the 72 recordings, it's very easy to say, well, the second overdub session was just strings and horns. So he's just got one overdub session to work with that has guitars and percussion.
Yeah.
And those musicians were Dennis Lind and Chip Young. And we know both of those were very capable of creating superb sounding guitar play. You know, along with you know, obviously James Burton, who was on the original. Maybe Charlie Hodge is credited for guitar on the 72 session, so maybe they removed him
Yeah, I do wonder just how much you would have heard of him.
Yeah, I mean, you've got John Wilkinson, and even Joe Esposito's credited for guitar on the 72 session. I mean,
You do wonder.
yeah. But you can sort of see where he's got something to play with the mix in there.
Yeah.
You know, so are we saying it's the final master take plus any pre-vocal and orchestral overdubs that he's got to play with?
Yeah.
To create this. But this is where I want to hear it from Matt. This is where, you know, let's not just slag the guy off for making it sound different. Let's, you know, you're obviously got to be talented to produce music like this.
Yeah. But I haven't heard anything that made me think that's not Elvis. You know, that's not an Elvis sound. I'm very happy with everything he's put into this record.
Yeah.
Where he has brought out a different guitar piece or something, he's enhanced the sound as far as I'm concerned. You know, a lot of these are going to be the go-to versions for me now if I want to listen to them. I like them that much.
And we know his sound is probably a narrowest soundstage. It probably focuses on the mid-range and the bass more than other mixes, you know, compared to the originals. And that's just his sound. That's, you know, and that's why I think it works on a lot of releases. Doesn't work on everything, but
no.
You know, I was very impressed with Aloha and Madison. I mean, he took a bit of roughness off Madison for me, and especially considering we're listening to CDs at the moment. With this, you know, we can discuss the vinyl because that's a different sound again. But with CD, it's bloody harsh.
Yeah, you got to fight that. Yeah,
it's loud, it's harsh. It's very good. It's very detailed, and you can get some fantastic stereo effects and bringing out instruments within it and everything. I love the sound of CD, but and these 72 and 75 sessions seem to suit that matte treatment better than some of the other, you know, like looking at 69, say.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I think definitely on the 72 material, absolutely nothing to complain about.
No.
So this one then, Today album.
This is the meat of the thing for me. The Today stuff is where it's really at. Yeah.
Now, you know, just to look at the background of it, this was a really efficient studio album made by Elvis.
Yeah.
And the band.
Yeah.
And the overdub sessions. He recorded it over 4 days, and he completed 11 tracks if you include the Tiger Man Jam.
Yeah.
Which I've always loved the funkiness of that.
It's such a shame that they didn't prepare that as an actual song to be released, because to me it's got echoes of the 1970 version of Shake, Rattle and Roll. It's a rock and roll song that's been slightly eased back, taken it, you know, and I just think it works.
Yeah, I would have possibly pulled it, done some overdubs and put it on the Moody Blue album.
Yeah, absolutely. They could have done that. Yeah. And if they got the band in to do a proper introduction into the song, so it doesn't just fade in, a proper introduction and a proper ending to it, and presented it as a finished song.
Yeah, and the first time we got that was on this brilliant release.
Mm.
You know, probably it's probably up there with that for me as favourite box set releases.
Yeah.
Another little bonus. Are we getting just a little bit extra of Tiger Man on this release? In the running, I'm sure.
I never looked at the length comparison.
I'm sure we're only talking a second and a bit or something, but I'm sure it comes in a little bit
right
earlier than we've had on the 70s box set.
And of course, that tells us that the band were performing this, and somebody thought, "Hey, we should record this," and turn the tapes on.
Yeah,
we don't get the very beginning of the thing, how it, which is a shame. It'd be great to know how it came to be, how it progressed. You know,
and it's just another one of those lost gems, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the 70s box set pulled together a lot of those lost gems.
Yeah.
You know, like the 12th and Never, that's in this set. Now, we all raved about that, but it's in this set. So,
spoiled again.
What do we want?
Yeah.
But I do think over those 4 days, which were really just 2 days and nights, to get the 10 album tracks down, plus a bonus for the future with the Tiger Man jam for us. I mean, imagine if he'd had one of his marathon sessions.
Oh, if only,
If they'd have kept him, if they could have kept him for another 5 days working, how many albums would he have knocked out? It was just that sounded this good. And he did sound 75. He did sound good.
Yeah, I've always liked the Today album. I think it's a very strong album. Yeah,
and I think it's a strong recording studio. I think everything must have been just worked well.
Yeah,
and that's because again we're in Studio C, aren't we?
And he had a decent set of songs. And I think they do all benefit from not having the extra vocals layered on. The vocal backings that's there, for me, is sufficient to support the song without layering more and more over the top. So I like the sound.
I agree, and I think I Can Help has always been one of my favourite Elvis songs. Since the first day I heard it on the radio in the 70s. I can remember sitting in my grandma's kitchen on the radio and me just sitting up going, "Is that Elvis?" It sounds so big and it really impressed me, and I love this. It's a great song. And it's always and I was really pleased in the 80s when they released the I Can Help album and the single, which was extended.
Yeah, it did well, the single.
Yeah, but I think you were talking about the Tiger Man jam and how that came about. The good thing about this release is you've got the 1972 sessions, you've got the 75 sessions, but we're going to get them eventually as FTD releases, like the brilliant, this is the potluck.
Yeah.
And we might then get a little bit more.
I'm hoping. I just wonder how much is there that we haven't already heard.
There might not be a lot, but I think. Let me see. I did some checking. I got that many bits of paper with this release. So, Okay, this was how easily knocked out these songs. Fairy Tale, 3 takes. Green Green Grass at Home, 5. I Can Help, 2.
Mm.
And I Love You So, 5. Susan When She Tried was 6 takes. That was the most he had to put into this. Trouble, just 4 takes.
Yeah, surprising for such a complex.
I would have never got those lyrics out in 4 takes. Like he, Tiger Man, we know, is just a single jam. Woman Without Love, 1 take.
Mm.
I think that's one of the highlights of the album.
Mm.
Shake a Hand, 3 takes. Maybe there's 100 takes out there we don't know about. We'll come to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Bringing It Back, 4 takes, and Pieces of My Life, 4 takes.
Yeah.
And
this is a tight band that's been playing together for a long time now.
Yeah.
Mm.
And he must have gone in there knowing the songs, knowing what he wants to do.
Mm.
I think Tiger Man and I Can Help, he just threw out like he could sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, give me the lyrics, I'll do that. And it's done. 1 or 2 takes.
What will be interesting on an FTD set that we haven't got so much here, for me, will be the studio chat.
Yeah.
I do wonder whether we would pick up any tension with Duke Bardwell. There is a comment, I don't know if you noticed, there's a comment on one of the outtakes. I didn't actually note which one, but Elvis says, in a light-hearted way, he says, "Get it right, Duke."
Mm.
Which
I think there was always a bit of a niggle, wasn't there?
Yeah. I'd like to know where that came from. What is the story behind that? Because I haven't heard anything in Duke Bardwell's playing that says to me it's not release worthy, get it out and replace it. So what on earth went on?
And I think because in the overdubs, his bass lines was removed, wasn't it?
Yeah. For
the released masters.
Yeah.
I think the only one that he's on is Trouble, because they wanted to get the single out quickly.
Yeah.
And it was good, fresh rock material, I guess. Rock, country, rock and roll-ish. But I can imagine how they thought, yeah, we've got a good lead single here. But yeah, why? You know, who requested that? Was it Elvis who went to Felton and said, just, you can imagine how we'd say it, like, and get that.
I can't see anybody else who would request it. It's got to have come from Elvis, surely.
Yeah.
So, and I can't believe it's the playing, so there's something else.
Yeah.
It's very odd.
Yeah, definitely. So with the with these masters then, do you think it's Duke all the way through, or do you think it's with the overdubbed?
I haven't gone to the extent of trying to compare the bass lines. I can't see what difference there would be, honestly. But if they're saying, if we're going back to what is the master, if they're saying these are the tapes of the songs recorded on the day, then it's got to be Duke Bardwell, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's a completely false statement. And if they must still exist, that is what I want to hear.
Yeah. And then you look at the sessions. So if Duke's on the original recordings, in one of the overdubs, Norbert Putnam is doing some bass overdubs. And on another session, Mike Leach is doing bass overdubs. So potentially you got 3 different pieces of bass going on within this release. And then an interesting question is, did Felton remove all the Duke's bass, or did he just overdub some and say, oh yeah, he's gone?
This is somewhere where I think the notes need to be clearer. It would be nice for them to say, on this track, this is what you're hearing, so there's no confusion. You know, I would have made a feature of it. Here are the tracks with Duke Bardwell's original bass lines, but it's a bit ambiguous as to what we're hearing.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this release even more interesting to me. And I just really love to hear Matt's take on it all. You know, and saying I did this from here and I did that from there, and you know, I actually did a mixture of things here because it's a mix and there's nothing wrong with that, because
no, I've got no complaints about what you've done.
It's a new mix we've been presenting. I think maybe Sony Legacy, Ernst and that should have, I don't know, used that in the marketing and brought that out more. I think there's only one track on this release that does that. That sort of says, whoa.
Wait, what are we listening to here?
What was that? And always with something like that, it's a shock. It's a shock to the system. It's like, whoa, and then you listen again. But we've been offline as a group of Elvis friends, and it's going on over other videos and social media, and you know, it's like we just want to work out what it is, and where it's from. I think that is really interesting, and between us, we've probably come up with 10 different theories. We're probably none of us or one of us might be right, but we're probably never going to know. And
be truthful.
So to me, be truthful to me, Steve. What's in Shake a Hand?
My initial instant reaction was it's a saxophone. Now, as it went into the second run and it got this strange deep distortion to it, I thought, is it? But when I looked at the notes, it says that included on the overdub session was a baritone saxophone. And so I'm still on the side of it's a saxophone. But I'm willing to be proven wrong because I don't know the answer. What did you think?
And I've heard a few people sort of go down that saxophone route, not with any concrete evidence to back it. I know when you first said saxophone, I thought, where have you got saxophone from?
Yeah.
That's got to be a guitar. But it's not like a guitar we've heard.
Yeah.
Now, I did my reading and looking at all the sessions and everything, and my first opinion was, right, I've cracked it. I know where that's come from. And this is probably the one I'd stick behind the most. And I'm just trying to find, because I want to make sure I give this guy some credit and the right. Okay. So on April the 8th, overdub, you had bass Mike Leach, you had guitar Chip Young, but you had steel guitarist Weldon Merrick. Now, I did some research on him, and he's highly regarded for his steel guitar playing, and he's played on a lot of albums, and some of the artists that he's played on have said how wonderful he is and creative, and how inventive he is, making a steel guitar sound like something different.
Right.
And that was my initial definitive, that's the answer. That's where it was. And then everyone starts talking about saxophones and guitars and different things. And then I came to another option, which I have to go back to the main recording session. And let me just find this information that I jotted down. Okay, so Shake a Hand was March 11th, 12th. And you've got David Briggs on the original session on the clavinet. Now, I did some research on the clavinet that he uses, or used in them, the 60s, 70s clavinet. And possibly that's the only other instrument capable of producing a guitar sound that sounded different.
Right.
But when did he play that? Did he play it in the session somewhere? Because we've only got, was it take 3 is the master?
Yeah.
And how many takes did I say?
3 in all.
It was a total of 3.
Yeah.
3 takes. And we know we've listened to those takes.
And there's no sign.
There's no sign. I've put headphones on. I've turned it really loud.
No, it's got to be an overdub for me.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting, of course, is the overdub session that had these extra instruments on is actually called the Quadrophonic overdub session, preparing the traps for the quad release.
Yeah.
Which I also find interesting, because I assumed that if you're going to get a quad version of an Elvis record, what you're going to get is the previously available master take with extra separation of instruments into 4 channels.
Yeah.
But they're actually adding a new layer, which is obviously intended for the quad release, which I find interesting. Were they intending to release that? Say that had worked, that overdub of whatever instrument it is. Yeah. Would we have got that on Elvis Today, or would we have only got that on Elvis Today quad release? You see what I mean? They call it a quad session. Would it have been applied to the regular album?
Yeah, you'd probably think not, because it would have to go into the stereo mix, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. It wouldn't have the same effect
somehow. And
I've never actually heard any of Elvis's quad albums on a quad system. It would be interesting to hear it and see if you pick anything out that, well, that's not on the normal release.
Yeah. And this is the thing about the Quadrophonic albums. In a sense, they're brilliant collector's items, but they're a complete waste of time.
Yeah, I've got one. Well, I've got all of them.
Because
I can never
none of us have heard Elvis in a proper, true quadrophonic sound. Because you're going to need the player, the amplifier, the speakers to play it all. And if you haven't got that set up, you're not going to hear a quadrophonic sound.
No.
It's like the same with people who say, let's release everything in 5.1.
Yeah. pointless.
Well, it's a waste of time, because if people are listening on Spotify,
Yeah,
on a boombox,
yeah.
what-
Most people can't afford to indulge in a top level sound system. Just haven't got the money to do it.
No. And let's not forget, you can't play 5.1 surround on CD.
No.
You need a minimum of DVD audio. A lot of DVD audio is more or less phased out and dead now. So then you got to go to Blu-ray. You know, how many people have got the 5.1, and even 5.1's old now, it's 7.1 or 2.
Yeah.
Who have got the amplifier, the 5.1, you need 6 speakers in your living room.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a very small market.
Yeah. And that's what, and Quadrophonic was tiny compared to 5.1, you know. And I'd love to buy a Quadrophonic album and have the setup here to play it.
To hear, yeah.
But even I'm not going to go to that length. And I love my mixture of vintage and modern hi-fi.
There is one person who I think has got a system set up, and that's that Alex, the Dutch guy.
Right.
Because he said to me once, I said, I've got the quad. He said, if you ever want to hear it, bring it along and play it on the system. So I believe he does have a system.
It'd be great to hear from someone who has got a Quadrophonic system,
and
can play it. And, you know, because I even believe quad, you need a different needle.
Right.
I think the grooves are, you know, like the difference between a standard 33 micro groove. That's why it's called micro groove, because you need a smaller needle than you did a 78. To play a mono record, you actually need a different size needle. That's more or less forgotten now, unless you pay huge amounts of money for a different cartridge and needle to add to your system. It's, you know, if you want to get the mono sound out of a mono record, you need a different needle than you play 33s.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're not getting it all. And normal people just don't want all this equipment, and they're not that interested. To be honest,
can't afford it a lot of times.
Yeah.
I mean, think of the number of fans out there. How many of them have got what you'll call a decent record player?
Yeah.
Not that many. I didn't until last year. You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's people coming back to it. You know, I was brought up on reel-to-reel record players, cassette decks. You know, and the radio.
Yeah.
And eventually, I got rid of certain things. Like I got rid of my records and my system. You know, I got rid of my cassette deck. You know, and we were forced that way with some of the releases. The industry made us that way.
Yeah.
We didn't suddenly wake up one morning and go, I'm sick of records. I want CDs. It was someone woke up one morning and said, well, if we only release Elvis on CD, then they'll buy a Sony CD player.
Yeah.
And the CDs, which are 3 times the price of an album. So it's the industry that made us that way. And then now we've got so much choice, we can choose to go back and listen to the records again and buy them all again, and you know, and enjoy it, because
yeah, definitely.
The record players that we buy now are proper hi-fi systems. They're not your Amstrads and your cheap boxy things that we used to buy as growing up. You know,
no, people want good quality.
Yeah, and we're at an age where we can afford it. You know, the sales of records are huge again now.
Mm.
There's a lot of record buyers who are just buying them to put on a shelf.
Mm.
And have no interest in playing them. They just like collecting things.
Yeah.
If that's what makes them happy, fair enough. But it does actually help us, because if 20% of the buyers are just to buy it and put it on a shelf, at least it makes it worthwhile for the record companies to release things.
That's one of the reasons why we need to support these things when they come out.
Yeah.
I have seen a few comments on some videos, people saying, I'm not buying it, there's nothing new. You need to go out and buy it.
Yeah.
Otherwise they're going to stop doing it. If it's not selling, you need to support these things. And it's worth buying. There's so much good about this set that it's worth getting.
Yeah. I think that is the point.
Mm.
Go and buy it and listen to it properly and enjoy the thing. There's nothing not to enjoy about it.
Yeah. I was listening to the outtakes of It's a Matter of Time, which it's a song I've always really liked, and it's a song I'll sing along to because it's an easy thing to sing along to. And sitting and listening very closely, I think there are 2 or 3 takes of it on the set, and those early takes, his phrasing and timing is different. He's singing it differently. Some of the words, whether it's deliberate or not, he's changing them, and it just like, I want to hear that again. There's a different feel to it. And again, the guitar work he's brought out on some of these songs for me is brilliant. I love it. It's not lost in the background. He's featuring it, and I really enjoy hearing it. It adds. Separate Ways on the outtake, again, he sings different words at some points. Again, whether it's deliberate or not, I don't know. He actually cocks it up because the rhyming goes out on one of the verses because he uses a different word.
Yeah.
I forget what it is now. I should have made a note. But when he gets to the end of the verse, you think, oh, well, it no longer rhymes because you've changed a word earlier on. But I find that brilliant. I love things like that. You might think, well, that's only a little thing, but frankly, that's all we've got. There isn't this vast store of unreleased brand new songs. So I can get great enjoyment from the fact that he's changed one word.
Yeah. And that's why I love the sessions releases. I mean, just to listen to the takes.
Yeah.
And listen. I mean, a lot of the time he'll sing a song very straight, the way it was meant to be, but he'll alter it to make it work for him. And he'll change little things just to make it just work better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on Green Grass of Home and Pieces of My Life, if you listen, he sings lines that he later speaks. He sings them in the earlier takes.
Yeah.
And then it's actually, that would work better if I speak it.
Yeah.
I notice things like that. It's like, that's what makes these sets.
And sometimes I actually prefer the earlier take to,
it's more spontaneous, isn't it? It's,
yeah. And sometimes just not getting it 100% right, but it just, they have a good feel to it. I mean, the one thing you can say is his recordings sounded amazing, didn't they? And that's the only thing I'm interested in mainly. If I can put it on and it still sounds amazing, because I know the original did. I know the Elvis Today album, the original US and UK vinyl releases, are my favorite releases of that session. and they're really strong, and it's a loud album.
Yeah.
You know, even on record, I mean, some records sound very quiet, and you have to keep boosting them up a bit to get everything, the impact out of them. But today is just a perfect piece of vinyl for me. You know, whack it on, and it's like, wow, this is Elvis at his best again.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I see it.
Another big song for me that's come out of this. It's a song that is very well known because it's been performed by other artists who've had hits with it. And it's a song I've always sort of taken for granted. But hearing it on this set made me really listen to it. And I've just fallen in love with it to a whole new level. And I Love You So.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm used to hearing it by other artists and it's always been there and you'll sing along to it. Yeah, it's a nice song. I never truly just sat and took it in as a performance. And this set has brought that to my ears in a whole new, and I just totally love the song. You know, it's really brought it to life for me.
I've always loved that song. It was probably one of the earlier FTD releases that got me back into it heavily. If you know, I know. I think it soars. You know,
and it's interesting, of course, that he included it on his last tour. That he brought it back. So he obviously really liked the song as well.
Yeah. I do. There's not really anything on this Today album that I don't like.
No,
I think everything has a really, really good feel.
And I think it's another album that RCA, how can you put it? They put the pox on it because it's got the concert photo on the front. It's called Today. There's no excitement around the release. I think it deserved to be a much bigger hit because it had everything going for it. What more were we going to ask for from him at that time?
Yeah.
But I think it just got lost in the background. Oh, it's just another Elvis album with a concert photo on the front. And
I think they just got used to Elvis sold.
Yeah, absolutely. They took no effort.
Yeah.
It's but there was a whole other market out there. As we said in that previous video, they were selling to the fans. They should have been selling to the general public. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everything was easy for Parker and RCA at that stage, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was just like just put it out. Let's not spend any extra money on it because we know we can make money, you know, which is what he did with the films for a period.
Yeah.
Yeah. But something I did miss covering actually that I think is really important, and I've seen a lot of conversations that have been really confused. That this 5 CD set is all Matt Ross-Spang mixes.
Right.
And it's not. According to the booklet, he only worked on disc 1 and 2. And disc 3, 4, and 5 are mixed by Vic Anasini.
Right.
Who does a lot of Elvis releases. I heard on the grapevine that he might not be doing them anymore, but I have no facts on that. But you know, I've heard people criticize those discs and criticize Matt for them,
right?
But which is a bit unfair, really. I mean, I think I think we do need to concentrate on the facts that we're given, and you know, there are 2 people credited.
Yeah.
As mixed by on this release.
I think you've got to allow with the rehearsals that these are not perfect studio quality recordings. You know, so you can't expect them to sound the same as the first 2 discs.
Yeah, and I think for the 70, apart from that early drop in Elvis's mic at the beginning of it, it gets better and better and better. I mean, you're listening to Elvis's vocal on top form and a band that is so solid. You know.
One question I've got. What on earth is the rehearsal I Got a Woman Take 2? There's virtually nothing there. It's virtual silence. I had to go in and turn it way up. Like, what the hell's this? Because the first time it's like, well, there's just dead sight. There's dead space.
Yeah, maybe
what on earth that was about?
Maybe it's just it was something in the tape, or maybe she was just like during that take, sort of way across town. Yeah, Steve. So, where's your final opinion on this? I mean, a very straightforward hit or a miss?
Hit.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Even if people are only interested in the studio stuff, it's so well done. It's go out and buy it if you haven't got it. Definitely.
Yeah. And even this too, the outtakes, they sound so much better than what even some of the FTD releases that we've had. The classic album, they sound so much better on here than they have done before. I totally agree. And then the next video we're going to do over on your site.
Yep, we're going to take a look at the 2 vinyl versions. The regular one and, of course, the Graceland Special Edition, which hopefully will be here shortly.
Yeah, looking forward to that over on there. So if everyone heads over to TCB since 73 and subscribes, and I think you have to hit the bell, don't you, to get updates?
Apparently so. I don't do all those things.
Yeah.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
That's it. We're never very good at doing that bit, are we? It can sound a bit cheesy, and we'd rather just
yeah.
But you know, if you want to see the part 2 of this set, then head over to Steve's channel.
Be coming soon.
Yeah, and we'll see you all soon. Hope you've enjoyed this rather long look at the Sunset Boulevard set. All right. Cheers, Steve.
Bye then. Bye.
Bye.
Just leave it to me. Don't ever be ashamed. Just give me a chance. I'll take care of everything.